You're tuned in to tomfoolery.
I'm here today with my sister, Mary Mattio. Say hi, Mary.
Hello, brother.
um, we've got the coronavirus going on right now. And in my other shows, I've already gotten into the politics of it and um, the science of it and things like that. But Mary, I think, was more concerned with how people are dealing with the virus mentally. Yeah.
Yes.
When it comes to like anxiety and things like that.
Yeah. I thought maybe we could talk about the behavioral science aspect and how people are coping with being stuck inside the house. That's something I'm really familiar with. And so I thought we could discuss some of that. I know you're familiar with some of that as well,
Yeah.
being cooped
Well,
up.
I am. I was locked up for a while and I was put in solitary confinement a lot, which is actually something I've been talking to a lot of people lately about because they view solitary confinement in jail as almost like torture, and that it just drives people crazy. And now they're kind of comparing that to being locked down, stuck in your house right now, um, all day, every day, not having much to do. I mean, we still have TVs, we have tablets, we have our phones, we still have lots of communication right now. So it's not at all a fair comparison. But um, do you want to tell people why you uh, are used to being cooped up in the house?
Yeah. Well, the last 9 years I've been homebound, and the last 15 years I've been disabled with a rare disease. And so I'm one of the high risk, immunodeficiency individuals. So,
Have you
um,
taken extra precautions during this? Like, have you stopped seeing people, or do you have
yes,
different precautions with how you get your groceries and things like that?
yes. One of the biggest precautions I've taken is I have a caregiver that comes, and she's no longer coming during this time, and so that's been a challenge. Um, and she'll resume when this time is over. But I've had family members dropping by just to bring me any necessities. And when they do, they'll wipe down my items and use gloves. And I feel like it's a little over the top, since they're family, but we don't want to risk it.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've got masks that I wear, gloves that I wear everywhere I go, and I actually I I go to I've gone to a couple restaurants and asked them why they're not wearing masks and why they're not wearing gloves, and they said that because it scares their customers.
Mm,
And that's surprising to me, is that you're more worried about their emotional or mental health than you are worried about their actual physical health. Um, so
sure.
yeah, I think I'd rather them wear the masks and the gloves, but I actually am still working during this time. I'm still working 50 to 60 hours a week. So I don't personally know what it is that people are going through um, while they're just sitting at their houses without other people around to talk to, and without being able to take their mind off of things and find something to interact with. So I'm still on a normal daily schedule all the time. So I guess it's a bit different for me.
Do you find that you or your employees are anxious or stressed out during this time?
Sometimes there are people who do get misinformation and then they want to go tell everybody they know. And so I've had to stop some employees from actually talking about it at all because they are going to give misinformation that does unnecessarily stress people out. Um, Me personally, I would rather just have the correct information. That's what I want to know. Um, I don't want to hide myself from information. But I see people on Facebook and Twitter completely just making stuff up. Like, hey guys, it's not that big of a deal. It's not even deadly. It's not. It can't really hurt you. The government can't pull you over if you go outside, or they can't give you a ticket for leaving your house. This is still America. You know, you can just go about your day as normal. They can't make you do anything. And these are people really just, I guess, trying to make things up in their head to cope with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I, when I go and tell them, actually, there's been a couple of posts where I've actually corrected the information that they've put out and said, actually, this is wrong. Here's what's really happening. I have to give my employees who are considered essential papers or hall passes to go out into the world and drive and do things every single day. They, if they get pulled over, they have to have these on them saying that they are essential and that they're allowed to go out. And so I'll tell these people these things, and almost every single time they've deleted their entire post right afterwards. And I assume it's because they don't really want to think about that aspect of it, or they don't want to deal with that reality. Now, if they're having trouble dealing with the information, what do you think the solution is there? Do they just try to come to terms with it, or do they do their best to live in their bubble and create a safe space for themselves?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are either in denial or really stressed out and sort of reading about the coronavirus all day or watching the news all day. And it's just amping up their panic. Um, so definitely not that. That's probably, especially if they're feeling really prone to that anxiety, um, for them to try to back away uh, from immersing themselves in sort of research on the virus, and not to minimize it or leave it alone altogether, but just not to immerse their entire quarantine in looking into it, because obviously if they're already stressed out about being at home, then looking at those images and researching information and reading about what other people say about it online is only going to um, make them feel even more panicked, even more anxious, and definitely not good for their mental health.
Yeah, I'm in groups in like communities with other YouTube creators and podcasters and streamers. Three things that I do all of those things, and in all of them, everybody's content or their numbers are down about 70 to 80% right now. And I don't know if it's that they, in the first week or so, all you did was just sit and watch YouTube and the news and TV, and now everybody's just sick of that and trying to find other things to do, or if it's that they just don't want to hear it anymore. They don't want to hear about the coronavirus. They don't want to hear about the pandemic. They want to try to find uh, they want to find, I guess, other things to fill up their time so that um, they don't have to deal with it anymore or listen to it anymore.
Well, that's good, because I know a lot of people who are still leaving the news on first thing when they get up in the morning until they go to bed. And while they're watching the news, they, like I said, they're researching the pandemic. And those are the people who are seem to be extremely anxious. So a little distraction wouldn't hurt, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so and to some of those people who are feeling especially anxious, um, especially stressed out, I wanted to just reassure them and sort of validate their feelings that, you know, this is a crisis that not just the country's going through, that the world is going through. And feeling how you're feeling is normal. It's not just normal, it's like it's healthy. You know, if you were cool as a cucumber, if you were feeling relaxed and like you mentioned, the people who are totally in denial and saying, oh, nothing's wrong, don't worry about it. Like that's the unhealthy reaction.
Mhm.
So if you are feeling a heightened level of stress and sometimes you are hit with like a feeling of panic, that's actually a normal, healthy response to a crisis. Not only is your routine not just threatened, but your entire routine was interrupted. But also your health is being threatened. Your family members are being threatened. I don't have to go through it all. You already know. Everybody already knows. Our way of life is being threatened right now. So it's a natural reaction to feel like you're in protective mode and our walls are up, our guard is up, and we want to fight back. Um, and I think when you hit that level of heightened stress, this isn't just like job stress or job anxiety. When you get stressed at work, this is like when you go into survival mode. And when you do, um, you start to have more physical symptoms. It's like you start to have like maybe sleeplessness, insomnia, um, really um, foggy or confused feelings. And that's normal. It's normal if you're feeling fatigued. It's normal if you're feeling bursts of energy, because in survival mode, we want to be useful. We want to fix the problem. And the worst part is that people can't go out and fix things. If you were at work, you could put all that energy into your projects at work. You could put all that, emotional energy, that anxiety into getting things done at work. But you can't. You're at home and you feel helpless, you feel useless. Um, and that alone isn't good for mental health. That can lead to even depressive feelings. So I also want to kind of, if anybody listening is also feeling not only anxious but starting to feel that uselessness and maybe even worthlessness, I just want to remind you that you aren't at all, and that even you being home and staying at your house is you contributing to society. Like that is you being useful. That is you saving lives. And it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, but you are. And like, thank you as a person who has who's immunosuppressed, like, I thank you very much. I have parents who are older, and on behalf of them, I thank you. So I know it's hard. Like, as I said, I've been home for 9 years. I've been stuck in the house. It's a risk to my health and my life to go out of my house. So I stay in a very controlled environment. And so I understand how leaving your house is a risk to your life. And I get that you can feel imprisoned in your home. But you're, first of all, you're not useless, but second of all, you are inherently worthy, you know? So just remember that when you go to those dark places. We all do, but especially now when everybody's in this crisis mode. And again, these feelings are like perfectly normal, and everybody's sort of going through that.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly, that when you think, when you feel like you're helpless and kind of losing control on your own life and your surroundings, maybe the best thing to do is to find a way to take back control, and especially go into caregiver mode, something like that, where you are trying to help other people who are struggling. So, like going out and getting food for people who can't leave their house, or making masks for people. Um, trying to find gloves in stores or online, um, trying to find ways that you can help other people normally, so that you can try to take back some control, is very useful for people in a situation like this, right?
For sure. Yes. Yeah, when we feel a loss of control, or and our routines change, those two combined are typically when our stress levels go through the roof. And so that's exactly what's happening to everyone. So, and you're right on with, that's a great suggestion, kind of going into caregiver mode, um, to try to help someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wonderful way to get some control back. And it's not necessarily that you're controlling your own environment, but you're looking for a way to feel useful and helpful, and purposeful in someone else's life, and you're helping your community, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and
And there's
going
so
out into
much
the
to do right now, so
yeah, going out into the world is not the only ways to do that. I mean, you can get on online communities and chat with people and talk to people. Um, I make videos and post them on YouTube and Facebook.
yeah,
Um, there's lots of ways that you can do it without um, necessarily endangering yourself and maybe making that stress worse.
that's right. There's a crisis line. There's an app. It's kind of like a crisis line called 7 Cups of Tea. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically texting through the app, messaging through the app. Um, People get on, and when they're having a hard time, they just need a human being to talk to. And people can go on and anonymously volunteer to listen to whoever wants to vent. And it's not therapy. The people on the other end are not licensed therapists. They're just called listeners. And they're not meant to give advice. They're just meant to be there so that the person venting knows they've got somebody on the other end. And I find that to be a really nice way to volunteer your time, and a nice free service for especially young people who need to know somebody's out there. So it's called 7 Cups of Tea. If anybody wants to volunteer their time, or if anybody, needs just somebody to talk to.
So, if we're talking about helping people and trying to take back control and stay busy, you mentioned that lots of people dealt with something like this during times of war and things like that, and that they had all sorts of ways and techniques, I guess, that they were able to deal with the stress, right?
Yeah, I think we typically today we think in such an individualistic mindset, but lately, during this whole pandemic, I've been thinking a lot about World War II and how the country really band together as a society. And, households went without so that soldiers overseas would have food, would have clothing. A lot of women wrote cookbooks that were specifically about how to make dinner that had only a few ingredients. Um, they planted gardens called victory gardens. So they were like patriotic gardens, and they were trying to grow as many fruits and vegetables as they could, not just for their own households, but they would take as little as possible for themselves, and then they would take it to the store so that the store could then sell it. And every household did this, and they would sew up the holes in their clothes and not buy clothes and repair their shoes. And they did this so that they were supporting their soldiers. And they all did this. They did this as a country. And I don't think we have that mindset. Not yet. Not when people are going to the store and buying up all the toilet paper for themselves. Um, I would hope that in time we could get there. But right now, it's every man for themselves
Yep.
in the US. And once upon a time, we saw our country as a community. We wanted to help each other. We saw the United States as we saw a sense of togetherness. We had a sense of togetherness, and I would love to see that again now, since we're all going through the same thing. Um, it is a bit interesting hearing how everyone's dealing with and coping with being in their homes, sort of going stir crazy. When there's a big community of disabled people and elderly people who stay in their homes, and it makes me wonder if there will be more compassion, more understanding after all this is over.
Mm-hmm.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. And you guys in your big communities, you guys, or in your online communities and things like that, you guys use each other and lean on each other. for help and guidance and things like that. And I know that there's lots of communities, again, online that are building right now where lots of people are using each other and helping each other um, for advice and for supplies and
That's right.
things like that. I know I created one recently for our county, and there's lots of others I know that are very busy right now
Yeah,
with lots of people posting them and um,
people are sharing toilet paper. You know, people are sewing masks, like you said before. So there are a lot of people reaching out and trying to share what they have. Um, so it's so nice to see that. It's so nice to see people building each other up during, you know, during these times where a lot of people are really scared, you know.
yep,
And it's important for people to remind each other that it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
yeah, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and um, I know lots of people think that things might be different afterwards, but I don't think so. I think that this is all very temporary, and life will go back to normal. Um, there's the only permanent thing might be some of the people who have lost their jobs, but those places will open back up eventually, and they will want people who are already trained and ready to work. Um, those will be the people who probably get first dibs back at getting their jobs back. So,
That's a good point. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, what's something you're grateful for?
For like right now during
Yeah.
the pandemic,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I'm able to still work. Um, I I know that there's actually people likely making more money uh, on unemployment and things like that, but I'm grateful that I'm able to keep busy and that I
Yeah.
have employees that I'm able to help through this. And I'm glad actually that I'm the one, I guess, running those restaurants, and that my bosses have all been very supportive and helpful with people who don't feel comfortable going to work. Um, we're making sure that they're able to take the time off that they need, and that we have all of the supplies and everything that we need to feel safe and comfortable at work, and make our customers feel safe and comfortable as well.
Is there a feeling that it's not fair that they have to come out and work in the midst of the virus? Like I've read some of that, or are they thankful that they are allowed to be one of the essential workers?
Yeah, for the most part, they're very happy that they're essential. There's um, there's even people who we don't have working there anymore, and a lot of them are coming back saying, "Hey, can I get a job? My store shut down, or the place I'm working at currently is laying everybody off, or um, all sorts of people just don't have work right now, and most everybody seems like they would rather be working."
Yeah. Well, I'm really thankful, and I think about this kind of thing a lot. This isn't just right now, but especially right now. Um, I'm really thankful that I have a safe, a safe, quiet place to live, and food to eat. You know, that if I needed health care, it would be here. And I think about that because I know a lot of places in the world right now, while we're all going through the same thing, the same threat, a lot of people don't have that, all those luxuries. I kind of feel like, even though I don't have a lot, I feel like I'm kind of living in the lap of luxury. Like, even though I'm like a sick person, like I don't have a lot of like worldly possessions, I feel like really fortunate compared to maybe others in the world right now who have a lot more to be, protective of
Hmm.
over their families right now. And so like at the same time that I'm so thankful, I'm also like I have an ache in my heart for other people. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think privilege is something that I keep thinking about a lot. That I have family right now that where if I was out of work, I know that I would have people who were able to help me, and
mm,
I have friends, and I know lots of my employees and lots of other people out there who just don't have big groups of people or don't have families around them to where they wouldn't have a support system in times like these. And so it's definitely something I guess most people are probably recognizing right now is um, how privileged they are,
yeah,
because other people go through these sorts of things um, when there's not a pandemic, you know. Hmm.
definitely. And the privilege of living in this country, I think we're feeling that right now as we see all the pictures and video of other of of images around the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our country's definitely getting the worst of it, and we're probably uh, the best country to get the worst of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a juxtaposition. Like a lot of us living in nice homes or nice apartments, or have food to eat, but not necessarily have protection for our healthcare workers. So, well, I didn't want to get into a political
Yeah.
conversation with you. Yeah.
Well, Mary, if that's it, uh, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of this information and the wisdom that you have on this, and hopefully it's helpful for the people who listen and the people who are going through this right now.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good to talk
Uh,
to you.
we'll have this on numerous platforms. So if you guys want to share it, it should be on YouTube and other podcast platforms. So we'll see you guys later.